What a crazy and wild day one of NFL free agency. The Baltimore Ravens don't make any additions, but they do lose a few players. We talk about everything that happened on day one up to this point. The players Baltimore lost, and maybe Derrick Henry. There's still hope you could come to Baltimore. That and more coming up next year on this live edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much as always for tuning in every single day and making us your first listen each and every day, or here in the nighttime. We're about 10:30 p.m. live. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube and audio form wherever you get your shows. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We're 5 days a week here on Locked On Ravens, Monday through Friday. So any Ravens news, analysis, updates, we have it here for you, whether you like to watch in video form on YouTube or follow along in audio form. It's the same show. Really appreciate all the video and audio listeners. Be sure to, again, subscribe on YouTube and in audio form there. I figured going live right after the first day of free agency. Now, again, this is a fluid situation. So moves could happen during this stream. Moves could happen directly after I hit end stream, and then we'll have to go live again for that. Everything is fluid. Literally just 1 minute ago, we have Jason McCourty reporting that Brandon McManus has agreed to a one-year deal with the Commanders, source Brandon McManus. So we'll kind of keep up and keep tabs on things as the stream goes on. But free agency is kind of a crazy time. We certainly saw that over the course of today, and we're going to see it over the course of the next really week or so as we get over all these moves, especially the early ones. Today, we're going to be talking about everything that happened in day one, obviously specifically with the Ravens. The Ravens lost a lot of players. They lost 4 guys so far. We'll talk about those guys. We'll talk about the rumors surrounding Derrick Henry, free agency fits, where guys have gone. We'll take a look around the AFC North, some moves happening there. So there is a lot to dive into. So let's first start off with the Ravens and who they ended up losing. It's a late night stream. So again, first of all, I appreciate everybody who is listening live. If you're listening live or watching live, I appreciate that. If you missed these live shows, you can watch after the fact in video form, or you can listen in audio form. We'll see. But for now, we're going to be talking about what the Ravens did. So first, we'll talk about who they lost. I say we have a lot of Derrick Henry comments. We'll get to those in just a couple minutes. But I first want to start off with what actually happened so far. So the Ravens lost 4 players today. They lost Gus Edwards, they lost Ronald Darby, they lost Devin Duvernay, and they lost Geno Stone. So for me, I think out of these 4, the one that there's a level to the ones that hurt the most right now. I think all of them hurt in a sense, but Geno Stone going to the Bengals was just kind of like a gut punch to me. Everybody, I think, knew Geno was probably on the way out, right? I don't think there was a lot of speculation of, oh, there's a really big chance he comes back to Baltimore. It felt like Geno was on the way out. But in my opinion, look, Geno, he's a professional. This is a business. I'm not going to blame a guy for go getting his bag and go getting his money. But obviously, this now means the Ravens get to play Geno Stone 2 times in a year. It's a 2-year deal for Geno Stone, worth $15 million. I think 6 of that was guaranteed. So not as big of a deal as I thought Geno would get. I think his market value was about $7 million per season. I think he was projected 3 years. So it's right in line with that, honestly, a little more. But yeah, I see John and Zach, Lamar is a joke because Tiki Barber actually was real and like really said to Saquon Barkley after he left Philadelphia, he said, "You're dead to me, you're dead to us." And Lamar said, "Oh, I'm using this as a joke." So he said it to Geno. But that's what it's going to be, where, look, I wish Geno all the best, right? Hope he has a very successful career. But obviously against the Ravens, can't be rooting for Geno Stone anymore. So that's part of it, where obviously the Bengals are a team. Their rivalry with Baltimore, Cincinnati rivalry, that has really come up. And I see, can someone, whether Anthony or Sebi, can you talk to me about what this offer is for Derrick Henry? I'm trying to find it on social media. I can't see it. I know that the Ravens, is it 2 years, 16 million? Is that the offer that I'm seeing? Oh, I see. Yeah, 2 years. Oh, no, I see it. 12 minutes ago, Brad Stainbrook saying the Ravens current offer to free agent running back Derrick Henry is in the range of 6.5 million per season. I see what you guys are talking about. I'd be all in on that. If so, we'll take a break for a second. We'll take a break from the Ravens and their guys they lost to talk about this. Well, Zach, I'll talk about Hollywood probably in the second or third segment. I see what you're saying. Hollywood, long story short, I'd be okay with it, but wouldn't be my first or second choice. Derrick Henry, 6.5, I'd take that in a heartbeat. You lock in 2 years, 13 million, maybe you guarantee 10 of that, 11 of that, you guarantee most of that deal. Maybe that's how you get them, right? You say, look, we're going to go lower on the average annual value, but we're going to give you more guaranteed money. Where some teams like to give, we're going to have all this money, but we're not going to guarantee you a lot of it. Maybe you go the opposite with Derrick Henry and you say, well, look, we'll lock you in at that 6.5 number and give you 13 million over 2 years, but we'll guarantee most of that money for you, especially because he's later in his career. So I don't know. I feel like for Baltimore, the way the running back market developed over the course of the day, you would get Derrick Henry for less than the Titans paid Tony Pollard, less than the Bears. Who'd the Bears get? I'm blanking on who the Bears got. DeAndre Swift, right? Yeah, it's been a long day. Yes, the Bears got DeAndre Swift. Both those guys got 8 million or 8.5. So you get Derrick Henry, who was a much better player, in my opinion, than both of those guys. You get him at about $1 million to $2 million less. Absolutely sign me up for that. 1,000%. The Ravens are going to need a running back. They're going to need somebody with Gus Edwards leaving for Los Angeles. Obviously, I don't think J.K. Dobbins comes back. I've said that a lot on this show. Giving Derrick Henry $6.5 million, I think that Derrick's probably looking more in the look. He saw what Saquon got, right? Saquon got right around 12, 13 million. Josh Jacobs right around 12, 13 million. The guarantees for Saquon, it can go up. Well, the actual deal itself, the base can go up to, I think, 48 million over 3 years. But in my opinion, Derrick's probably looking for, hey, give me 10, give me 11. I think if the Ravens can settle in the middle of, let's say, 7 and 11, you give them 8 or 9 million per season is a compromise. Yeah, MGH, I think there, 8 to 10 is totally in that range for me. I see Jackson asking, think we go Joe Mixon. I wouldn't bet on it. I've heard rumblings that Houston is going hard after Joe Mixon after his release. So that could be the place for him. I expect the teams I'm expecting to still go hard after a running back. It's Baltimore, it's Houston, it's Dallas, it's Minnesota. Those four to me, and there are a couple others sprinkled in, but those four I expect to be in the conversation there. I see Not on His Hot saying, I pray they sign Henry. It's getting out of hand. It's the same stuff year in, year out. Rinse, wash, repeat. And he says John Harbaugh sleeping on the sideline for years. And this is kind of what it's been, though. And I've mentioned this, where the Ravens have kind of gone through this process every offseason where they're not going to just pounce the first minute free agency opens. So I think that this is kind of par for the course for Baltimore. But as I talked about on today's show, our 6 a.m. episode, if you didn't check it out, I talked about why this free agency could define Lamar Jackson's prime with the Ravens and the success in Lamar Jackson's prime for Baltimore. You can't just sit on your hands and say, like, for example, last offseason, it was a different situation last offseason with Lamar and the whole contract, right? It's all different, but I think the Ravens, a guy like a Derrick Henry, we know he can be a game changer. Now, of course, you obviously have to figure out for what the price would be. Is he worth it? Because the running back position is so devalued. But in my opinion, I'd be totally fine with Derrick Henry anywhere from 6 to 10. The 6 to I predicted Saquon and Derrick Henry's market were going to be 9 to 13 million. They both fell in that market. I predicted that a week or two before free agency. My prediction for Derrick Henry was in 6 to 10. So in my opinion, if you can get Derrick Henry anywhere, honestly, 6 to 9 is probably where I'd be comfortable. 10 is a little much, but if it's a 2-year deal, anything more than, I'm not giving Derrick Henry any more than 2 years personally. You can make it a 1-year deal if it happens, but in my opinion, Henry is by far the best running back left in this market. Aaron Jones would be fine. I'd be totally cool with Aaron Jones, but I think there's Derrick Henry 1, a little bit of a gap. Aaron Jones 2, Joe Mixon is, I guess, kind of in that same category as well. So we'll see what happens, but in my opinion, you got to go for a guy like Derrick Henry. Just a splash in general. The Ravens can clear up the cap. All these teams around you are getting better. You also have to get better if you're the Ravens, in my opinion. So for me, Jackson, I think Joe Mixon is probably on the lower tier of running backs I would prefer. I think he's still a talented football player, obviously. I just feel like based off the reports at least, Houston's going to go and snatch him up. I see talk about T. Higgins. I don't know if I missed a question in here about T. Higgins. I see Richard asking how much cap space the Ravens have. Right now, Richard, they're up against the cap. They are, after the Madubuike extension, they're literally like right up just a tad under it. They shaved off the franchise tag money, essentially. So they went from 22 million on Madubuike, 22.1 on Madubuike to about 12.25. So it shaved off that 10 million they were over. They can still free up space, cuts, restructures, extensions, etc. So we'll see what happens there. But I see a bunch of T. Higgins stuff. The Ravens aren't getting T. Higgins. I mean, it'd be cool if they did, but I don't think Cincinnati's trading him to a division rival, first of all. And look, it'd be cool. I would personally take T. Higgins on this Ravens roster, but I'm not expecting anything like that. Personally, coming up in the second part of the show, though, we're going to be talking about the Ravens, and we'll actually get back into our conversation. We talked pretty much Derrick Henry that entire first segment. We'll talk more about Geno Stone, more about Gus Edwards, Ronald Darby, Devin Duvernay, a lot more coming up next here on this episode of Locked On Ravens Live on Monday night, recapping the first day of NFL free agency. First, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed. It's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use, point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet college hoops until they cut down the nets. We're back, our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you on this Monday night, coming up on 10:45 p.m. Eastern. It's been a long day for me. I see Ravens 76 B more shouting me out in the comments. I appreciate you as always for tuning in, saying salute KO, listening from work overtime, 1 hour to go. Appreciate you as always, Ravens 76 B more. 1 hour to go. Power through it, my man. Power through. You got it. It's been a crazy day. I went live on the Ryan Ripken show at 12 p.m. We did a whole free agency marathon, went back live at 6 p.m., talked Orioles, also more Ravens as well. And now I'm here, and we're going to do a 6 a.m. episode talking. That's going to be more Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones centric. So we'll be talking about that. Zach, I'll answer your question quickly about Marquise Brown, because I said I would do it. Marquise is a player that I'd be fine with in Baltimore. I know a lot of people are kind of like been there, done that. The issue with Hollywood is that he's not the type of receiver Baltimore needs right now. The Ravens essentially have Hollywood and Zay Flowers. And I think that adding Hollywood would be too redundant for the Ravens at the price point he's going to want. I'd rather go and get somebody who has a little bit more of a bigger body catch radius skill set. I think that's the type of receiver the Ravens need. I'd much rather them trade for Cortland Sutton as opposed to signing Marquise Brown. And both those guys might be a little bit around the same price point of the wide receiver market. Would be, I don't know. I thought it would be a lot better than it was in terms of average annual value, but I don't know at this point. Oh, wow. All right. 38 seconds ago, guys, we got breaking news, Ravens breaking news. Look at this. John Simpson is signing with the New York Jets, 2 years worth up to $18 million, $9 million per year for John Simpson. Wow. All right. Was not expecting John Simpson to get that much money, but look, if he was offered that, I am not blaming him for going and leaving. I do not think that was the market I was expecting. In fact, I know for a fact that was not the market I was expecting for John Simpson. But you know what? Shout out to John Simpson going and getting his bag. Again, John Simpson to the New York Jets. So that is now 5 free agents the Ravens have lost. Crazy. Wow. $9 million for John Simpson. I'm not going to get over that for a while. So that could, I see Jackson saying Bozeman. Maybe Bozeman comes back. He was released by the Panthers, so that move's expected to happen. He did play guard for the Ravens, has that guard center versatility. Yeah, I wouldn't totally be shocked if the Ravens went and brought back Bradley Bozeman. Wow, $9 million for John Simpson. I'm telling you, and it's worth up to $18 million. So I'm sure it's a very incentive-based deal. I'm sure the actual base aren't $9 million, but Simpson had double-digit penalties for the Ravens last year. Played better than my expectations for him, but I mean, again, I think you can honestly get Bozeman for quite a bit less than what Simpson got. And I think Simpson is the better player by a pretty wide margin. I know we kind of didn't have the great year in Carolina last year, but I don't know. I feel like to me, I would have, and the guy I wanted back anyway was Zeitler. So in my opinion, I feel like it would have been the right move if the Ravens were to get him back. Simpson maybe is like a backup, but yeah, he's going there to start if you're paying him that much money. I see MGH saying I thought you was Henry when I said I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I misled anybody with the breaking news, but it was Ravens news. So the Ravens have now lost again 5 guys. Gus Edwards. I'm glad I'm doing the live stream now so we can talk about it. Breaking news here. They've lost Gus Edwards, Geno Stone, John Simpson, Devin Duvernay, and Ronald Darby. Those 5 guys are gone. So Ravens, we knew this was going to happen. We knew guys are going to be going all over the place. I believe that that's a 6th round comp pick for the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken, because the Ravens are actually right now on pace for, I believe, 5 comp picks in this draft. So I think you're only allowed to have 4 max, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe they changed that rule. But we're going to see what happens there. Yeah, we got a lot of comments in here. Yeah, nice for John Simpson. I see John's laughing in the chat as well. A lot of people thought I was talking about Derrick Henry. So now that we're on the topic about who the Ravens lost, we talked about John Simpson. Gus Edwards going to the Chargers. I had kind of said, oh, maybe JK goes to the Chargers. Ravens connection, Jim Harbaugh, got the Harbaugh connection. Then I thought about Greg Roman and what happened with JK and Greg Roman at the end of 2022, and I said, maybe not. So I kind of floated Gus a tiny, I didn't float it much. I floated it a tiny bit on some shows, and I said, well, I think maybe a Ravens running back could end up in Los Angeles. Don't think it's going to be JK. Could it be Gus? Could it be Dalvin? It was Gus, 2-year deal, $6.5 million total. We'll see how it ends up going. Commanders got Austin Eckler, so Edwards right now is the number 1 running back in Los Angeles. Solid for Gus. And then Geno Stone, as we talked about, got the 2-year, $15 million deal from, was it 15 or it was either 14 or 15? I can't remember. But we're going to see, how he ends up faring in Cincinnati. The Ravens needed the Bengals needed a safety like Geno Stone, very versatile. He picked off Joe Burrow in week 2. So, Joe Burrow said, hey, we're not doing that in the division anymore. Yeah, Jackson 15. Thank you, Jackson. So I feel like for the Ravens, it was a move that was going to happen. Geno was going to leave, but the fact that it was a division rival just kind of, it's a little bit of a gut punch. Now, the one that I wasn't expecting was Ronald Darby. I kind of figured Gus was gone, figured that Duvernay wasn't going to come back, figured that Geno was gone. I was surprised Ronald Darby left. Now, he got 2 years, up to $10 million from the Jaguars. The Jaguars, by the way, signed literally everybody. If you tuned into the Ryan Ripken show today, I had a lot of trouble pronouncing Gabe Davis. Literally, I kept saying Gabe Davis the whole entire show. Literally couldn't say it right once. But they signed Gabe Davis. They signed they're trying to bring back Calvin Ridley, potentially. They signed Darnell Savage and a bunch of players. So Mitch Morse is over there now, but they also bring in both Ronald Darby and Devin Duvernay from the Ravens. So 2 Ravens guys, but Darby was a player who was really, really good for Baltimore. And what Geno Stone and Ronald Darby brought the Ravens, especially when guys like Marcus Williams and Marlon Humphrey went down, were consistent quality play. And sometimes that can be hard to get with depth. Some guys' depth pieces step up, or sometimes depth pieces step up. Sometimes they don't. So it can be difficult to get that really the consistent production. And Eric DeCosta did a really good job. The coaches did a really good job as well. You're going to have to replicate that a ton in 2023 or in 2024. They did a lot in 2023. Now, out of those 4, I think the one that's going to hurt the most is probably Stone in terms of his ability. But again, the depth is something that's going to be big for them. They're going to have to make these smaller moves around the margins. Now, we actually did get a re-signing for the Ravens earlier in the night. They re-signed Malik Harrison to a 1-year deal, which, yeah, I'm down for him. Harrison showed versatility, can play both on the inside and actually was trained at Sam a little bit in the last couple of off seasons, so can play on the outside as well. Not going to be a huge deal. I'm pretty sure Harrison's going to, maybe it was a minimum type of contract or just over. So low risk, high reward move if it all pans out. And I assume that they want to have him there if they put in Trenton Simpson in the starting lineup, which is looking like it's going to happen, and kind of just have him as an insurance policy, which I did talk about. Yeah, I see people are talking about comp picks. MGH saying, what about Pat Queen? I don't think he's staying. Jordan Brooks went to Miami earlier in the day, so they have 2 openings over there in Seattle. So I would expect him to go to one of those places potentially. Richard saying, I'm kind of glad to see OBJ walk. Did OBJ go somewhere, or is it just like that he's not expected to go anywhere? I'm trying to refresh, but right now he's not expected to return to the Ravens. So I think that for Baltimore, they're going to have to sign a receiver. I think they sign a veteran and they draft a guy. Then you get your 6 wide receivers that way. I think they essentially chose between Aguilar and Odell, and they chose Aguilar, which I'm fine with. I think I would have been fine with either, but Aguilar had a huge impact for Baltimore on the field, also as a leader, which, I mean, Odell had an impact as a leader, but I think on the field for his $15 million up to $18 million contract didn't live up to that. John saying PFN, top landing spots remaining for Henry, Ravens, Cowboys, and Texans. Yep, I think those are the 3 teams that I'm circling for who still needs running back. Obviously, Minnesota does too, but I feel like they're focusing. I'm going to play matchmaker for a second here. I think Derrick Henry goes to the Ravens. I think Joe Mixon goes to Houston. I think Aaron Jones goes to Minnesota. And I think J.K. Dobbins goes to Dallas. J.K. Dobbins is from Texas. It make a lot of sense. They can draft a guy and they can have, maybe they do like a Quorum Dobbins backfield and they bet on Dobbins or something like that. That's my prediction. And maybe they break. How about this? Maybe Dallas gets Dobbins and Dalvin Cook. How about that? That's my prediction. Dallas does the double Ravens backfield and takes Dalvin and JK. Ravens get Henry. Texans get Mixon. Vikings get Aaron Jones. That's my prediction. Yeah, Jay Riser saying, or Jay Razier saying, losing Darby was a heartbreaker. Now we have to draft a corner and pray EDC hits. Tyler saying, are you expecting us to sign guards or just draft / in-house? Probably draft / in-house. The guard market was a lot bigger, and I see Jackson saying that he's kind of getting kind of worried about the offensive line there. The guard market, so this is where I was. If you listen to me every day on Locked On Ravens, first of all, thank you for tuning in every single day. But I kind of said the way to do it this offseason was you sign a guard and you draft a tackle because tackles are the premium position, and those contracts are always huge, and there are a bunch of tackles in this class. The guard market has been wild this year. I mean, we just saw John Simpson get $9 million per season. A lot of money for John Simpson. Even though I'm a big John Simpson guy, I thought he, stepped up in some circumstances, but wasn't so great in others. I'll say he played better than I thought he was going to. But regardless, Damian Lewis, I think it was Damian Lewis, right? Yeah, Lewis, he went to Carolina on a 4-year, $54 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. No, 4-year, $53 million deal. Then we had Robert Hunt, the Miami guard, who went to Carolina on a 5-year, $100 million contract. At this point, I'm probably going and bringing back Kevin Zeitler and then giving the other starting guard job to Cleveland or Voorhees, or you draft a guy. I mean, that, in my opinion, even if they don't bring back Zeitler, I still think they're going to probably go draft / in-house. They have enough picks to do it where they can take a tackle and a guard this year. And if they need to play both guys, they can. So we're going to see what ends up happening. But yeah, it was absolutely crazy kind of just seeing, because the Edwards, the Stone, the Duvernay, that all happened in like a span of 15 or 20 minutes. So kind of crazy to think about how that was going there. Coming up, though, we're going to be talking more about free agency, what happened around the league, and obviously what the Ravens could potentially do on day 2 and moving forward of free agency, who they could bring in and who they could also still lose. Stay tuned for that. We have a lot to still get to on this live edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's the first thing you do if you had an extra hour in your day? Would you go for a run? Would you take a nap, read a book, show up for a friend? A lot of us spend our lives wishing we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time is limited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. And therapy has so many benefits. For example, you can learn positive coping skills. You can set boundaries. It can empower you to become the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. It's for everyone. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is follow the refresh and get matched with licensed therapists and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. We are back with Locked On Ravens live, coming to you on Monday night. Kevin Ostreicher still talking with you after free agency day 1, at least what it has been up to this point. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in live tonight and making Locked On Ravens your first listen of the night or the day if you're just tuning in to shows. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, follow along both in YouTube and in audio form. We do 5 days a week of Ravens content, plus these bonus episodes after any big Ravens news or after big days like they won a free agency. It's really fun to do the live shows, engage with the chat, and obviously our Monday through Friday shows come out, plus bonus content, those bonus episodes at 6 a.m. Eastern time, grinding away on Locked On Ravens, but I do love doing it. So it's been awesome to build this community up. You can be sure to follow me on Twitter as well at ChaosRicker34. Also trying to build up my Instagram. You can follow me over there at ChaosRicker34 as well. Let's keep talking about the Ravens. I mean, I see, let's see, we see Vertical saying, I want to see the Ravens bring in Darnell Mooney. That one doesn't excite me as much. I mean, I'm okay with it, but I feel like the Ravens could do better. This free agent wide receiver class just isn't that strong in the first place. Like, I'd rather them just trade for Sutton and call it a day. Like, you get Derrick Henry, you get Cortland Sutton, you bring back guys along the margins, right? You draft offensive line, you get the edge. Like, to me, I think that's my big agenda there. I see Tanya is impressed with John Simpson in his contract. I am too, Tanya. You're not the only one. And then we see Jay Razier saying, I think Derrick Henry's the next must-sign for EDC right now, but I think he gets outbid by Houston. The reports are that Houston's going hard for Joe Mixon. I don't know if anything's changed. I'm trying to refresh Twitter as quickly as I can while also simultaneously streaming and talking. So we are multitasking as we go through what can really be I mean, things can change in an instant, really. I mean, we're kind of talking about how the Ravens haven't really done anything on day one of free agency, but who knows? The signing of Derrick Henry could change the mood in Baltimore really, really quickly. Now, I do think that the Ravens need a running back. We saw the Bengals release Joe Mixon. They bring in Zach Moss, which was kind of a downgrade in my opinion, but, helps the Ravens. So I'm not complaining if that's the case. But to me, the moves that I'd expect over the next couple of days, if we're looking at who the Ravens could potentially lose, I still expect Patrick Queen to leave. I think the Ravens will probably lose one, if not both, of Clowney and Van Noy. My prediction is Clowney stays and Van Noy leaves, and the Ravens maybe bring in a veteran pass rusher. Now, Leonard Floyd goes, and he's off the market. Darius Smith goes back to Cleveland. So I think that you can still sign. I mean, I don't know if Danielle Hunter's that guy. Like, you could sign him. Danielle Hunter to Baltimore would be electric if you want to go big. Bryce Huff went to Philadelphia. I think that was 4 years, $51 million. But then we saw like John Grenard go to Minnesota. That was 4 years, 76, if I'm not mistaken. So the edge rusher class, the free agent class this year, the values have been kind of up and down on those contracts, but it's going to be a little bit of a richer position because it is a premium position overall. So I think that Clowney, we'll see what money he gets. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets in the like 9 to 10 million per year range. Van Noy, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets around the same thing. We're going to see what happens there, but I do think they have to figure that out, in my opinion. Tyler asking, what do you think the Broncos want for Sutton? Do you think it's doable? I think it is doable. Now, let me look up. I'm going to look up his contract quickly because I just want to see what the cap hit is. But the Broncos traded Judy to the Browns? Yeah, to the Browns for a 5th and a 6th round pick. So the Broncos are trying to clear cap and get back, some semblance of draft capital because they have to have all that Russell Wilson dead money here. So his cap hit is $17 million, but you only take into account base salary. So I believe if the Ravens traded for him, it'd only be about a 13 to 14 million because the bonuses stay. So it'd be 13 to 14 million is a cap hit for Cortland Sutton, and then 13.5 to 14.5 in 2025. I think that's honestly the way the wide receiver market is today. That's a pretty solid contract, in my opinion. I would take Cortland Sutton at $13 to $14 million for the next 2 seasons. I think that's a fine deal. Now, I would think the Broncos would be trying to pine for like a 3rd round pick. I think they probably get more so like a 4th or a 5th. Like, I don't think they get a ton for him. And that's where I think you can, again, get a quality playmaker. It's the type of receiver the Ravens want. It's not breaking the bank at 20 plus million per season, which I think a lot of receivers are going to be pining for in free agency. I feel like that's a solid deal, especially because the Broncos are selling, and we're certainly seeing them do that right now. Let's see. Jay Razier saying Derrick Henry and Clowney are must signs. Those would be big. I think that would put a lot of confidence in me, regardless of what else happened throughout free agency. It wouldn't be the only 2 moves, but you got to like the Ravens' chances if they're able to get those two guys, plus add along the margins with the offensive line there. I see Cam here. What's up, Cam? He says, hey, Kevin, I think EDC has deserved the benefit of the doubt. He's putting something up bets on a cheap deal or a special. But yeah, I'm not blaming EDC for any of this. I mean, I understand that there's frustration and, all these teams are making moves and the Ravens aren't doing anything necessarily. So it's like, oh, well, what's happening? What's happening? There's still plenty of guys available. We didn't see Eric DeCosta make his first move last offseason until 3 weeks in. A couple years ago, they did nothing on day one, and then they signed Marcus Williams, Darius Smith, and Morgan Moses all on the same day. So I think that, look, this doesn't mean the fact that the Ravens haven't done anything up to this point doesn't mean they're not going to do anything ever, right? They're going to sign guys. We've heard they're interested in Derrick Henry. We've heard there's mutual interest in that. So something is going to happen. The Ravens are going to have to add guys, right? They can't just sit there and do nothing, right? So I think that the Ravens' time will come, as it always does. This is typical Ravens stuff, right? So it was honestly par for the course for me. There was some expectation among the fan base that, this might be different this year. I don't think it was going to be any different. So this doesn't concern me at all. They haven't done anything. I get that it's not flashy. It's, they didn't do anything. It's not exciting, but they will do something. It'll happen. Jackson asking, how much stock do you think the Ravens are putting in Ajabo? I hope not a ton. I mean, his potential is there, but you can't put a ton of stock on a guy that has had these injuries over the past 2 seasons, and you just don't know who he is as a player at this point. He was already going to need to develop, right? He was already kind of not behind the 8 ball. I don't think that's fair to him, but he was going to need a lot of development, and he's kind of lost out on essentially 2 whole seasons of that. So I think the Ravens are going to have to go veteran heavy on the S position. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with them putting stock in OA. Like, I'm fine with, if they're putting stock on a young guy, put it in OA. You're allowed to have confidence, right? You're allowed to have confidence in David Ajabo, but I'm not necessarily putting a ton of stock in him because he hasn't proven anything. And if he isn't ready yet, the Ravens need guys to be ready now. And if he's not, that's going to be an issue for them. Cam asking what's going on with Bowser, and I see Vertical saying Ravens need to bring in Derrick Henry. Wouldn't be mad if Aaron Jones comes in, and if they bring in Chase Young to replace David Ajabo or Odafe Owe. I wouldn't use the word replace Vertical. I just say to be a compliment to. They're not going to release Ajabo or Owe, but look, if they want to bring in Chase Young as a bigger outside edge guy who can kick inside, Young has had an up and down start to his career, but I wouldn't be totally mad about it. And then Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, I'd be totally fine with those as well. To answer your question, Cam, about Bowser, I wish I could. I mean, I don't know. The Ravens are going to have to release him. I mean, I think 5.5 for a player that didn't play last season. There's still some, again, we just don't know what the issue is. So we're going to figure out what happens there. Yeah, I2 saying Bowser will be cut. And then Cam asking about the Falcons. Yeah, I don't know with the whole thing with Lamar versus Kirk. Kirk's coming off the Achilles. I would have paid Lamar if I was the Falcons. But you do have to remember, and this is a fair point, the Falcons would have had to give up 2 first-round picks as well to get Lamar on that exclusive franchise tag. So that is a factor. I still, Lamar to me is the much better player, but the 2 first-round picks, I'm sure that was also a factor there as well. Jay Rizzer saying it's crazy how when a job gets a quarterback, the likelihood of a strip sack is so high. Yeah, I think he had 4 tackles, like 3 sacks, 2 strip sacks or something, like something crazy like that. It is true. When he gets to the quarterback, he gets the ball out. And then that to me, turnovers. Got to have them for a defense. Cam saying I'm completely comfortable with Bateman as a wide receiver 2 behind Flowers. Aguilar as number 3 seems fine. Yeah, I think, look, that's fine, but I would still like more, right? I mean, I'd be fine with it, but I think the Ravens could do better. So I agree with you, Cam, where it'd be okay, but the Ravens can do better. They can raise that ceiling. So that's what it's going to be. I see Jack. Well, I don't think he's going to get cut. But again, if we're talking about accepting versus declining the 5th-year option, I currently expect them to decline that 5th-year option. And I see Jackson saying Bateman is going to cook, and I2 saying I'm sick of hearing that and not seeing that. Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's put up time for Rashad Bateman, right? Year 4, it's time to put up. So we're going to see. I don't think any other news has broken. Obviously, if something does happen, if the Ravens sign Derrick Henry, literally the second I end this stream, I'll obviously go live again. We'll have our regular 6 a.m. episode coming out tomorrow, talking about the potential of Derrick Henry signing with the Ravens, if that's a good move for them. We'll talk about Aaron Jones a little bit. And then obviously when any big Ravens move happens, we'll be talking about that. We'll go live and get into it on Locked On Ravens. So thank you for tuning into this live episode here tonight. Wanted to just get on, talk a little football. I think it was was a crazy first day, and I think we're going to see this next week or so is going to be crazy as well. And I think the Ravens will make a move by the time the week is over. Bold prediction. That's what it's going to be, in my opinion. Be sure to subscribe, video form, audio form, the whole 9 yards. Really appreciate all the communities we've built in video form, in audio form, social media, subtext, the whole 9 yards there. Ravens content coming to you for this entire week, as we always do, 5 days a week, never miss an episode, just past 1,200 episodes on Friday. So really exciting milestone for me there. Excited to keep going, excited to keep talking Ravens. And again, be sure to stay tuned for our 6 a.m. episode tomorrow. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.